Welcome to Game Development with Godot for Vibe Coding. Are you ready to build a swipe-based card game? In this hands-on course, we're going to go from brainstorming to designing the prototype or template for a minimum viable product card system, where every swipe shapes your player's fate. You're going to get a prototype built in just 1 hour. And of course, all source files are included, so you can start from our template that we will build together, or you can build it alongside me. And you can then expand our game with any kind of theme or features that you like using the skills learned in this course. We'll design game architecture, build a slick user interface, implement user input in terms of swiping, and connect card consequences. Along the way, we will use large language models. Specifically, we're using Claude in this course, but you can follow along with any large language model. And we're going to use large language models to help us build things like card data, game brainstorming, scripts, and scenes, and more. Vibe coding is a creative approach to game development and coding where you use AI tools like large language models, which can generate code, they can generate data, and generate ideas. Godot is a powerful open source game engine for building 2D and 3D games. And we're going to be building our game in Godot with the GDScript programming language. We're going to see with our template that you can go down a narrative game path where you can build a storytelling game where players can swipe on cards to see a next card, see a previous card, or choose a path where the story will go. You'll also see that our game can go down the road of a strategy trading card game where players are challenged to make decisions using the cards, and the swipe or decision that the player makes will affect their standing in the game. We're going to start by brainstorming game ideas with large language models, designing game outlines and architectures, then taking the modular approach using best practices of prompt engineering and vibe coding. We're going to build our project. We'll design a user interface, display and cycle through cards dynamically using scripting, implement smooth user input with GDScript. We'll also see that we can stick to just a narrative game, or we can implement player attributes. For example, where players' standing or statistics can go up and down based on how they swipe on cards. It is recommended to have experience with a game engine, specifically Godot, and it's recommended to have experience coding, specifically in GDScript. But even if you have no experience, you can still watch, but you will have that extra challenge if you don't have the prerequisite background. We're using Godot 4.4.1 stable for this course. We are also going to be coding in the built-in GDScript editor, as well as the Cursor AI code editor. We're going to see an example of vibe coding using a code editor where you can generate code directly in your file. Similarly, with card data, you can generate the data directly in the file as well. All source files are provided for each step of the way, and you get lifetime access to this course. Let's begin coming up next. Let's begin our vibe coding journey by prompting a large language model to build a sample game. For example, we're going to use the Claude large language model in this course, available at claude.ai, but you can experiment with any model of your choice. We're going to start with a simple prompt like build a Godot 4 game. Notice that we don't say anything about the type of game that we want, just a game in general. So we're allowing the model to choose, in this example, the game theme, game mechanics, the whole game idea, and then the model begins creating the game, in this case, a simple 2D platformer. So this is great when you want to brainstorm ideas for games that you can build, or if you are working with quick, easy prompts where you don't need any specific task that is done. If that's your use case, then you can use simple prompts like build a Godot 4 game. But if you do want to achieve something specific like writing specific code or building a specific game, you'll have to expand that in your prompt and give ideally a detailed outline with the game plan, game mechanics, etc. for the model. As well, you'll notice that in this case, the model starts building several files like a project configuration, user interface, player script, main script. So the model can start building the whole game for you. And this can get overwhelming and can be time consuming because it might be developing scripts that you don't necessarily want, or scripts that might not work, or scripts that have a common issue, such as commonly with Godot, a model will use slightly outdated Godot script. So to address these issues, you can use modular development, where instead of prompting and creating all these scripts at once that are being generated by the model, instead you ask the model to generate short code snippets. And in this way, you can check each code snippet in the engine. So ideally, for modular development, you have a game plan, or you develop a game plan with the help of project planning with a large language model if needed. And you can do research on existing games that you want to emulate or brand new game ideas that you have. And then with your game idea and your game plan for the steps that you're going to take, specific steps for building your game, like you'll see where we build out a Godot project, we build out a user interface, then step by step, we build the next item that we want to display in the game. We build some mechanics for user input or player input, such as swiping left and right. And then we slowly start to add more user interface elements and more mechanics to the game. So with modular development, you start by building what you can in your project. And with the help of scripting and automation scripts made by your large language model, you can add different features of the game one step at a time. And that's what we are going to demonstrate in our project. And this way we can check each short snippet that is added to the project. We also have a better understanding of the project as a whole because we actually are building the project and we are adding features to it, one small feature at a time, as simple as possible at a time. For example, for a card swiping game, instead of developing the whole game at once or even one giant script at once, we build out first the simplest user interface of just a card. Then we build out the functionality to display maybe some text on the card. And then we add the functionality to swipe to the next card. And so in this way, you are adding as small of a feature as you can at a time. This also will help you debug because you can address issues as soon as they appear. So now that we have our quick intro to vibe coding, let's brainstorm some ideas with the help of large language models. In this lecture, let's use large language models to brainstorm game ideas. We can use a prompt such as brainstorm unique, never been done before, simple minimalist game ideas that are addictive. And we'll get some game ideas here. And next up, let's look at how we can be more specific. So you can provide specific examples of the type of game, the platform it will be on, game mechanics, game theme, some ideas for games that you want to emulate, etc. For example, we can specify mechanics like a game with swiping mechanics where left is no and right is yes. We can ask for game ideas that use that swiping mechanic Or we can ask for how the mechanic can be changed or expanded, like what about a swipe up or a swipe down, diagonal swipe, a circle, etc., or even drawing through swiping. And so we get some ideas for game mechanics here. Next up, let's learn how we can brainstorm game outlines, where we give specific criteria and even themes, and then we can generate the outline of the game as well as a plan for development, different scripts and scenes that need to be part of the game, and what the project structure will look like. And we can do that with the help of large language models coming up next.